3 years ago, my health was in decline. It was pretty much to the point where I didn't have enough energy to walk. And there was only one solution that I could find, the gluten-free diet. That's the only thing that has been able to keep me as healthy as you see me today. And as time goes on, I see more and more information about gluten-free diets coming out that sometimes I find really good because that makes everybody familiar as to how serious a situation mine, which is celiac disease, is. But I also find that sometimes gluten-free diets are associated with things like weight loss solutions, or they might be associated with healthier living altogether. Many celebrities, including Kim Kardashian, Miley Cyrus, as well as others in both movies, music, sports, have all attributed healthy living to a gluten-free diet. And while this is partially true, this type of information actually leaves out a lot of very important information, some of which can save my life, can save the life of your friends, and could potentially help you should you actually have a horrible reaction to gluten. My name is p4.final.ccicchelli, and my presentation today is going to talk to you a little bit about why it can be very misleading to discuss gluten-free diets as a healthy kind of fad or weight loss fad. And from there we can talk about how we can change that by making the conversation a little bit more about education. Let's start with why gluten-free diets actually exist in the first place. Their treatment. As I mentioned before, I have celiac disease. It's an autoimmune disorder. So whenever I digest gluten, my body actually attacks the small intestine of my stomach. That area, the lining of it, actually helps to absorb nutrients. So if I react to gluten, then I can't get the nutrients I need and I become really sick. This is a chart from the Wall Street Journal, and in the middle was the wheat allergies and a summary of what happens when you respond to wheat, but for the purposes of this presentation, I kept it out for relevance. But this can show you some descriptions as to what happens when somebody reacts to gluten if they have a gluten sensitivity and celiac disease. No, it's 1% of the U.S. population. However, the Wall Street Journal reports that that went from 1 in 10,000 to 1 in 133. So it shows that more and more people are becoming diagnosed with celiac disease. As you can see, the symptoms vary, but they can become as minor something as stomach issues or headaches. For celiac disease, it becomes a lot more serious with malnutrition, osteoporosis, and cancer. For both gluten sensitivity and celiac disease, a gluten-free diet is definitely needed. And you may have thought of gluten-free diets, if you've ever heard of them, as something where you just don't eat wheat or pasta and it's really bad for you. But typically, a gluten-free diet is a lot more extensive and a lot more deeper than that. Here is two lists. This is pretty much what a gluten-free diet really looks like. It's more about avoidance and removal of gluten altogether. And as you can see, a lot of it doesn't even have to do with food. As you can see, medications, certain makeup like lipstick or lip balm, those can actually have gluten in it because it acts as a glue and a binding agent. Also, even things such as sauces, soups, seasoned rice mixes, things that you wouldn't think normally would have gluten in it, actually do. And so if somebody's saying that a gluten-free diet is good for them for weight loss and all of that, you have to wonder, are they checking their medications? Are they checking lipstick? I mean, that's what a real gluten-free diet is. And when celebrities and public figures in the media promote a gluten-free diet, oftentimes they don't consider or don't mention how extensive and how time-consuming it can be to read ingredients and really check to make sure you have a gluten-free product. Now that I talked about the problems that exist when we do have a promotion of gluten-free diets as a weight loss solution, let's talk about what the conversation should be like. When celebrities do talk about gluten-free diets, or when the media does promote gluten-free diets, we often forget to mention testing. Celiac expert and registered dietitian Shelley Case says it's very important to get tested before you go on a gluten-free diet. Because if you go on a gluten-free diet first and you potentially have some sort of gluten sensitivity or celiac disease, you can actually complicate the testing. There are two tests that I had done and that she also recommends. The first of which is an endoscopy and biopsy. An endoscopy is actually a camera that's inserted into your small intestine to check if there are any kind of ridges or cracks. At the top here you see a healthy lining that's mostly smooth. And in figure C, you can't really see it, but there are actually cracks in different ridges, which indicates that there was a reaction to gluten that destroyed the lining. A biopsy is also done, which removes a small piece of the intestine to check and see how the villi is reacting. B shows you healthy villi, which is a little bit more uniform and easier to outline, while D is more atrophied and blobby, indicating poor or degraded villi. When I actually got this test done, it proved negative, so it's not always reliable. Some patches can be healthy while other ones have these ridges, so it's definitely better to get a blood test done, also known as a serology test. These are actually 5 different graphs, all of what is known as ELISAs, and they're actually there to detect protein in the bloodstream. That means gluten has gotten into your bloodstream. And these larger, as you can see, these higher points indicate somebody who's untreated for celiac disease, and they have a high amount of protein. So this actually showed that I came up positive for this particular test. And with this one, you have to remember that you have to eat gluten 2 weeks beforehand. They have to know that there's presence of gluten in order to indicate, or in order to conduct this test properly. So when we're thinking about gluten-free diets, you have to also remember that when it comes to testing, it's better to stay off the diet, especially if you have a reaction, so that way you can find out whether or not you have celiacs or gluten sensitivities. Next, we want to talk about the celebrities who do promote gluten-free advocacy in smarter ways. Jennifer Esposito, who's an actress, and Elizabeth Hasselbeck, who is a hostess on The View, both have celiac disease. And they both stress with their respective foundations that education is key. That means reading the labels on packages of food, talking to your restaurant owners or food vendors about ingredients, how food was prepared, and knowing pretty much how gluten exists in our daily life, that it can be found in different products, and how you can also be tested for gluten as well. So to conclude, what I really want to stress is that with the media and with celebrities, they do have an impact on the way that we live because they have such an ideal lifestyle. And so to talk about gluten-free diets as a weight loss solution, again, really does lose the importance and significance of a gluten-free diet to somebody who really needs it to live. Thank you very much.